Welcome to Stress-Free IEP. You do not need to do it all alone. With your host, Francis Shefter, Principal of Shefter Law. You can get more details and catch prior episodes at www.shefterlaw.com. The Stress-Free IEP video podcast is also posted on YouTube and LinkedIn, and you can listen to episodes through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Now, here's the host of Stress-Free IEP, Francis Shefter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. Today, I have an extra special guest who I'm so excited to have on because similar to me, she has a master's in special education and she was a teacher for several years. So she has a different perspective as well. Lavaunda Roundtree from Educational Support Services. Lavanda, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Lavaunda Roundtree, as she said, and I am so excited to be here. I absolutely was a special educator in one of the public school systems here in Maryland, and I am not doing that anymore. I'm doing something that's even more fun. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Yeah, you said more fun, academic therapist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me more about that because everybody's like, academic therapist, what is that?
Yeah. So, and I get that question a lot. So just in general, academic therapy or an academic therapist is someone who's been trained, intensely trained in a particular subject area, usually reading or mathematics. And there's most of the time it's a multi-sensory type of instruction, but it's a more intense instruction outside of what's given to you normally. A therapist actually has to go through a practicum. Mine was 700 hours, supervised practicum. Yeah, to really to even receive that certification, but you have to, show that you were able to demonstrate these practices in order to have a student excel. So it is beyond the normal just tutoring, which I've done some of that. I still do some of that, but most of my students are students who need academic therapy. Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about how I got into that. So,
well, I was going to ask real quick before you go into that, just for if anybody doesn't understand what a practicum is, that's kind of like an internship, right?
Yes, that's it, an internship. Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess in different fields it's different. Practicum, internship. Yeah, same thing.
Perfect. Awesome. So yes, tell us, how did you get into academic therapy?
So yeah, interesting journey. So when I was teaching as a special educator, every school that I went to, or you teach in different schools, but every classroom I had, there was always that one kid who didn't progress when it came to the reading instruction, right? And I'm just like, okay, I'm a special educator, right? I'm supposed to be moving kids who, have difficulties in reading. But there was always that one kid, it was just not working. So I'm just like, okay, well, let me pull out this trick. Let me pull out this tip. So I'm pulling things out of my trick bag, right, to apply to this one kid, and it still wasn't working. So say I've got 5 kids moving, one isn't working, 4 kids are moving, one isn't moving. It's just like, my gosh. So anyway, after doing this for several years, using all the tricks and it wasn't working, still remembering the faces. I still remember those faces now to this day of those students who were not able to progress. But I found out about this thing called dyslexia. And I'd never heard of it before. It's like, well, let me just go find out what this interest meeting was about. Now, mind you, this was a long time ago. I don't want to date myself, but this was back, there was a program, it's now called the Dyslexia Tutoring Program, but when I started, it was called Mayday. And so I said, well, let me find out more about this. And in doing that, I learned that, okay, I never even heard of this before. I am a special educator. Why didn't I know about this? And, especially if you're going through the training, like, getting a degree, like, why haven't I heard about this? And so that's what I did. I started my journey there. And I quickly realized that all those tricks and tips that I was using didn't work because teaching reading isn't magic. You know what I mean? There's nothing magically delicious about it, right? And so I learned that there's a bit of science to this thing for teaching struggling readers. And so instead of tricks, I get to use my knowledge to help students learn how to read, especially those students who are just differently abled, right? Teaching them how to read. And so now that I have that, I'm now currently doing academic therapy with students one-on-one. But another reason why I did it too was I also saw that in my community, you just didn't hear about this, at least back at that time. It's totally different now. Okay. But at that time, that wasn't happening, in my community. And so if a student didn't know how to read, oh, well, it's just kind of, what happened, okay, he's just a non-reader. He's always going to need help or not going to, never going to get a job. Even going to dyslexia conferences, you just didn't see people who look like me. And dyslexia touches every kid, right? Dyslexia it knows no color, it knows no ethnicity, no religion. It just doesn't, And so I think that in order for all of us to know about it, somebody had to be there to tell everyone, right?
Right.
And so that everyone can get that same assistance and help. And so that was second reason. So have some folks and be able to bring it to my community with some knowledge. You don't just want to say dyslexia and you don't know what to say or what to do, what to say about it. And in addition, the final thing is that I love helping the underdog, right? I just love it. I love those kids when they say, oh, he'll never read or she'll never read it. Okay, it's a dare to me, right? You're daring me.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, you're daring me to show you what's going to happen with this kid. So I love those cases, especially when they say, oh, the school or the teacher said there, he'll never read, she'll never read. Okay, we'll see. Let's show him.
Right. Yeah, I love that because that's me also. I mean, that's what my whole firm is based on, and my YouTube channel and this show is to show people like what else is out there.
Yes.
Because surprisingly enough, even today, I get people saying, there's education attorneys that can help us with this.
Wow.
But people don't know. And then with academic therapy, and I know with reading, with dyslexia, it's like the new, although now they're going into 2E more, but the dyslexia is, new, because when I was in school, everybody thought dyslexia was just flipping letters. They didn't know the true, dating myself as well back then. But yeah, dyslexia, I mean, and it's so different. And I'm not sure, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but like in teaching, when you were teaching and as a special educator, were you able to use the techniques that a dyslexic child needs in the classroom to help the child?
So yes, after I received all of my training, I did bring that training into the classroom. However, it was difficult. It wasn't easy because, people, like for instance, okay, in the school system, you have to teach, they use certain reading programs, and that's fine. I can use a program, that's fine. But I use all the other knowledge I've learned and brought that to the program. But what happens sometimes, of course, is, okay, let's just say, for example, there is ABC reading program, and the school says, okay, for the first month, this is where you need to be. You need to be on set 1. Okay. But by the time we reach December, you should be on set 3. Well, it just doesn't work like that. There are students, if you have a reading group, every student in that reading class, that reading intervention class, is still on a different level. And so what I found myself doing, of course, because I have the knowledge, I'm able to look at, see what children are doing, how they're responding. And from that, you can tell exactly what they need. And so wanting to give all 6 of my children or my students at the same time what they need is difficult, because this student, all of them need a phonological awareness. Let's say, for instance, phonological awareness. However, they need assistance in phonological awareness, but they're all at different, on different levels, even in that, before we even get to, the actual reading part. And so that's what was difficult. But the one thing I can say is that even though it would appear as if I moved slower, they had such a strong foundation so that when the next teacher came in and started reading intervention, they were able to move quickly. And so that was for me. For me, I was always trying to build that foundation because reading does not improve. You can have a kid in reading intervention classes, and that's fine. They do work. I'm not saying they don't work. However, if your child has holes in the foundation, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be weaknesses. And you don't have to have them if you do the right thing, you know, the right thing the first time. So if you start, I mean, especially to you're talking about older kids, the older kids, the foundation is just kind of rocky. You know, if they're struggling in reading, they have a weak foundation. Of course, as always say, the earlier you do it, the earlier you do this, the better. Okay. So that's just real. But for kids who are
And which
already
is
in middle and high school, it's just, you have to build that foundation before you get to, you know, bigger words and, fluent reading.
and at that point in middle school and high school, like you have that content that you need.
Yes.
And that kicks back to something like I hate when schools say, "Oh, let's wait and see. They'll catch up." Right? Like, no, this is the time we need to teach them.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
it. If we don't get the foundation and the skills now, when is it going to be taught to them?
Right. And
I was going to hit
on that note too, you lose kids. You lose kids when you do that. So the older they are, you just start to lose them, and they become just so distant. They're just so, they're just broken by that time when you keep waiting. Their expectation is that they're going to continue to fail. That is their expectation. And so they get to, at some point, they don't even try anymore, And so that's what you don't want to do. So I understand when sometimes they'll say, let's wait and see. But I can admonish every parent, everyone who's listening, do not wait and see. Please don't wait. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. Just please don't wait. And just listen to that inner, something's kind of nagging at you.
I say it all the time.
Yeah,
the parent gut.
Just go for it. Ask. And if you're still not getting, especially after a year, you're still not getting, they're still not hearing you, look for outside help. Don't wait. Okay. I know we expect, the school is supposed to, but if the school is not, do not wait for them. You do what you need to do for your child.
Exactly. And that's, I've counseled clients often on, we can get a perfect IEP. I can do that. No problem. We can get it. However, especially for our older children with dyslexia, they don't have the resources. Your child's going to miss too much of the regular day to really teach the foundation that they need to know. So, I tell people, like, you can hire me, I'll get you a perfect IEP, or you can take that money and hire an independent tutor, academic therapist, and get the foundation skills.
Absolutely.
Because unfortunately, schools have to provide FAPE, free and appropriate public education.
Right.
Not the best.
Right.
As long as you're progressing somewhat, it's good enough.
Yeah, very good. I'm glad you said that because you're right. I think that's what a lot of times, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, but a lot of times parents have the expectation and it's just appropriate, so. Whatever.
And it's interesting when you went into about the training for the academic therapy, because I remember, so I did my undergrad in early childhood and I was a teacher. I was a reading specialist. No extra training, nothing, right? Okay, I'm a reading specialist now. And then I remember I went back to get certified in special ed and do my master's. And I was learning all these skills. And I'm like, why didn't we learn this for teaching in general? Right? Like,
absolutely.
If classrooms did this more, we wouldn't have as many issues.
Absolutely. And I'm just grateful now that they are doing that now. But just think about the years of, like, when you and I were teaching, we started like this. It just wasn't available. And all the folks that we could have, I'm not saying they're not getting help. I don't know what's happened to them, but we could have saved so many people. Like, this is stuff that should have been done, should have been in just your regular, program for being, having a degree, but it just wasn't. So, I mean, they're doing that now, and I'm grateful they're doing that now, but it just wasn't like that at that time. And so we still have people who, as a result of that, who are still suffering.
Right. Exactly. And I was just thinking about it that I lost my train of thought. Oh, the skills training. So reading specialists learn how to teach reading.
Yes.
Special education, special educators learn how to teach special ed.
Yeah.
There's not one that teaches both.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And that's where you come in.
And that's where I come in. Yeah. But even, for me, like I said, I had to go outside. I had to go outside to get my training. It was extremely expensive and extremely time consuming, which I'm not upset about, but it is a lot of work. And so that's what you had to do to get the information that you probably should have gotten in the university, but you didn't. And, no slight on universities or anything like that. But yeah, it just, that's where I come in. And
Right.
so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. And then I think you touched on for adults also, because I know a lot of adults that don't like to read, and chances are they probably have dyslexia, but because of when they were in school way back, it
Yes,
wasn't talked about and it was pushed
exactly.
under the rug. So
Exactly.
can you help adults?
Absolutely. I have no age limit. I do. I haven't had an adult lately, and I'm sure that's for various reasons, just especially too because, well, the thing about this, when I find the adult students that I have had in the past, they were working really great jobs, excellent, fantastic jobs, but they hit a roadblock at a certain point when something very public happened to them. And that's usually when I got those adult students. For an adult, I guess sometimes it can be kind of embarrassing, like, to not know what a sound is or whatever. But again, that's where someone like an academic therapist would come in. So therapy is when we talk about therapy versus tutoring, they are different. And so as an academic therapist, there is an emotional factor or that kind of that we have to deal with coming from our students. And so you have to be very understanding about that and let them know, yeah, okay, you're an adult. It's it's a bit of a struggle, but let's just fix it. Let's move on. We're not judging. Let's move on and go past that. So yeah, I have no age limit.
I love that you said that, because that's one of my biggest things recently is that children with neurodiverse children think differently, their brain works differently. And what frustrates me is they're not normal. And like for adults that can't read,
Right.
there's nothing wrong with them. The school system failed them.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just, I was talking to somebody the other day about ADHD and about how I joke around that a attorney can't not have ADHD,
Right.
because in the courtroom, you have to pay attention to the judge and the jury and the witness and what you're going to say next and like jump all over the place.
Yes.
And I had somebody telling me, she's like, yeah, when I had this one job, I was the best at it because I could hyper focus and catch every detail because of her ADHD.
Right.
And it's just, our school systems, as great as they are here in Maryland, they're still not perfect. And they still need to go back to focusing on where children excel. Not everybody's going to be a great reader.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be great at math.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.
Find what's your specialty and build up on that instead of, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And you're beating this child down.
Exactly.
So,
I
heard once, I don't know if you heard this or not, but I heard once that third grade is kind of the age. If you don't have a child loving learning and wanting to learn more by third grade, chances are you're not going to get that child back into the education fully.
I haven't heard third grade in that regard. I've heard with regard to teaching how you need to catch them by the third grade. And so even with that statement, if you need to catch them by the third grade, then you can't be in first and second grade saying, well, let's just wait and see. So if there's an issue in first grade, kindergarten, if there's an issue there, you need to catch it then. So by the time they get to third grade, it is definitely it's difficult. Okay. It becomes harder at that point, but it's not impossible, but it requires more work. It is more difficult.
And you know what, you're right, because that does make more sense, because when I see clients, when clients come to me for help, when they're having issues, it's usually third grade because the curriculum gets harder and then you see the difficulties. But
Yes.
okay, now you have to go back and teach the foundation. But as you said, pick it up in kindergarten.
Yes.
And I love that you said it because I say it all the time. Trust your gut.
Yes.
It's there for a reason. Moms, dads, parents, guardians, if something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Get
Right.
out there, look, ask questions, ask the school, check out YouTube videos, watch, reach out to people, get help, because you can fight the school so much, but is that really the best use of
Right.
time and energy?
Exactly. And I totally agree with that. Why put it there? And I know this is not where we were going with this, but I do want to say this is that some of the issues that our students have, like when they go to school, you can not prevent them, but you can at least, even what you're not sure a lot of times until kids get to school, that there may be an issue. But what you want to do is start early when they're babies and when they're in preschool, those ages. Play with them, when we were younger, when I was younger, I'll just say when I was younger. Okay. So nursery rhymes were a big thing. So
Yeah.
that's what you did, even the patty cake, baker's man, bake me a cake as fast as you can. So there's rhyming, there's a little bit, you got the ta, 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 so when I do that, there's some syllabication in there, dividing of syllables, make me a cake as fast as you can. So all of that stuff, those things that we did way back in the day, those things work,
Right.
you know.
And the Dr. Seuss books. I am
Exactly,
Sam. Greetings,
exactly.
Sam.
Right. Talk to your children. That PSA announcement had a commercial that woman was in the grocery store. What color is this? It's green. Green. What is this? Peas. She was doing that, and you saw at the end of the commercial she was talking to her child. That stuff is necessary for language development. Do those things.
Right. And it's, I'm going to bring up a friend of mine again, who was a reading specialist. She was babysitting my child once, who was 6 months old, and she's holding the baby, and reading a book to her. I'm like, reading already? She's like, yes. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And, you don't think about it because how much do they know? But you're turning the pages
Exactly.
and seeing the print. And it's
Yes.
just the exposure that is so helpful at an early age.
Yes, absolutely.
I remember, I know, some of the schools I taught in were the inner city schools, and a lot of times, the parents didn't have the best education, and the parents didn't know how to parent.
Right.
And again, in some cultures, some areas, it's like, well, I'm an adult. I should know how to parent. Don't know to reach out to help, and don't know there's help out there. Like the Mommy and Me classes, and learn how to teach your child basically, and how to give your child that running start.
Exactly.
Right. And you said a lot of times children aren't identified until they reach school because they don't know who do they have to compare with. Right. If they're not going out and having friends groups and having play dates and all of that. And if they're not going to preschool because they're a stay-at-home mom, which is fine, is great.
Right.
But see what's going on out there and find play dates, socialize.
Yeah,
right?
I would definitely admonish it. Find a group, definitely find a group, because it just, because it's not just, okay, again, we know what the play groups are for. They're playing, developing and building relationships. But however, as another side note, it's language development. Your child is hearing other kids speak, and how to respond and all of that. So it all impacts, the whole being of a child.
And I'm the mom or dad.
Yes.
Because your kids are playing, and what do moms and dads do? They talk about, oh my gosh, I can't get my child to sleep. I can't, and somebody says, oh, try this trick.
Yes.
And you're learning how to parent better.
Absolutely.
Because, there's so many different things, and every child you have, even in the same household, learns differently.
Exactly.
So what you're doing for one for potty training is not going to work for the other. So let's find other skills, right? And it's support. I mean, I say it all the time. Parenting is hard.
Yeah.
Parenting is hard when you have neurotypical kids. Add the neurodiversity and the other I don't want to say non-standard way of learning or doing things. And it just adds another level of what we as parents need to do.
Absolutely.
Right. Do you
Absolutely.
work with parents to teach them how to like reinforce what you've taught?
I do some of it. So some of my most severe kids, I do not try to, I don't do it with my most severe kids. I'll just say that. I don't do it with my most severe kids because, um, first of all, reading is daunting. Even a few words for some of my most severe, or it's just daunting. So they have their daunting hour with me.
Right.
But not only is it daunting for the child, it's also for the parent. It's hard. It's very difficult. So when I come into that space of kids who are most severe, I don't ask the parents to do anything. Let that remain with me. But as they begin to make progress and begin to feel more confident, then we'll add a few activities. You know what I mean? And it could be something as simple as, okay, just do this, 1 or 2 minute activity with them for sounds or, whatever. But I will do that, but only for my light work students. When I say light workers, dyslexia is a spectrum,
Right.
so you have mild cases, moderate, and you have severe, and everyone in between those. And so, like I said, it just depends. But most of the time, most of my students, most of mine are the more moderate to severe. So I'm very limited with regard to what I give a parent to do in that aspect. That's just being honest.
No,
Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, because again, parents have a hard enough time.
yeah,
Like I pay somebody to clean my house. I'm
yeah.
not doing it,
Right,
like
right.
pay somebody to teach my child to read. Because even though I'm a
Exactly.
teacher, I don't have the patience for my child anymore.
Yes, yes,
You know.
yes.
Um, and so, that actually brought me to something that I was thinking about. Do children need to have the label, the testing to say they're dyslexic to come see you and start services?
Not necessarily. I mean, if someone could come to me and say, "Hey, I'm seeing this, and I've been to the school. They won't do this. They won't do that." So we don't need to do that because I do my own assessment. It's not a formal, but I do my own assessments. I do that because I need to know really what it is. And if I feel like you do need a label, the thing about this is that we're not labeling for labeling's sake because
Right.
labeling it can be advantageous, especially when you're in the public school. It can
Yeah.
get you some accommodations with, just something to help your student along while they're getting the appropriate instruction, not just the appropriate for him or her. Right.
Right.
So it can't just be, getting some extra instruction. So you can get the accommodations because you have this label. All right. But it doesn't mean it's going to ride with them, for the rest of their lives. All right. So, but they don't need to have a label to come to me. We can figure some things out. And, most of the time I know a student, when someone comes to me, if they have dyslexia, right? You can kind of tell there's some
Yep.
telltales and not just the BD reversals. That's out. Okay. So, because not every student with dyslexia does that. As a matter of fact, most of them don't. So there's certain things we're looking at, certain things you look for. Just because of my experience, I'm like, yeah, this kid presents as a kid with dyslexia. I could say that. Right.
Right.
But I would encourage, getting an assessment, even if you do it on the outside. I always help parents try to figure out a way, like if you can't do it all private, let's mingle some public and private testing. There's a way to
Yep.
do that too. So
Yeah, and I have a video on my YouTube channel on what do you do if you ask the school to evaluate your child and they say no.
yes.
Yeah, they can't technically do that, you know.
Yeah.
But I love that. So you do an assessment and figure out what's going on, and so you can individualize your plans with each
Right.
child for what they need.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking, like if a parent knows their child's a little bit behind,
Mhm.
because like whatever the little things from kindergarten are coming home and they're not getting it. Should they just come see you? Would that make more sense sometimes than trying to get the school to evaluate? Or
I
would
think well, I mean, here's the thing. So if you come to me, at least I can lay out some things you should do, right? Because sometimes when parents come, they're not sure. They're not sure what to do. Okay, I see this, the scores are continually low, but then that way, okay, so I can look at the grades. I can definitely say, okay, yeah, here's where a kid is falling short. When I, look at those tests, here's where they're falling short. And this is where some of these things look like, or at least according to the school, where, they're falling short in the reading part. So they can certainly come to me. I do free consultations, a 30-minute consultation for free. And I actually ask for those things. So if they want to do a 30-minute consultation to figure some things out, right, at least get a plan, like, what do I do next? They can absolutely come to me with those results. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it makes sense because, like, again, as I said, can be hard, expensive, stressful, all the other things trying to fight the school when, yes, you might eventually get what you want, but you've just lost all that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Put the resources, and I say it all the time, once school becomes not as scary and more comfortable, and your child becomes more confident in school, it's amazing how things at home get so much better.
Oh my gosh, yes. I've heard that so many times. Yes.
Because I say, think of it as adults. Like when we have a stressful day at work and we can't get anything right, how's our, behavior when we get home?
Exactly.
And what are we doing? And what do our children have to do that?
Exactly.
So if we...
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think that you're and I'm glad you said that too, because I think as adults, by the time you reach adulthood and things like that, we tend to forget. And the children now, it just seems to me, are experiencing a lot more stress. I don't say it's more than ours, but we have to remember that it was stressful. Remember what it was like for us to be stressful. I mean, I remember some very stressful teachers when I was coming up, like, this thing, oh God, it was awful. So, students, they're experiencing these same things, and just a lot of them, especially now too, like they have no idea what in the world is going on after going through this pandemic age of teaching. Just think about, now everybody's trying to throw things back. Oh, you got to know this. You have to know that. You have to know this. It's just, and that's even for the kid who's just they're not neurodiverse. They're struggling, and so, people are going to respond because they're stressed. They're going to respond. So as a parent, I know you have to look out for your own life, but now as a parent, you're responsible for lives, not just yours, but the ones that, that are growing up in your home. And so it does take a lot of work. And
what people forget, I think, this pandemic was, it was worldwide.
Yeah.
There was no way to protect our children. Right. Our children heard and saw COVID, people died.
Right.
And how stressful that is for a child of any age.
Exactly.
It's stressful for us as adults.
Right.
And that you're putting that stress on the child also with everything else.
Right.
Like that's a whole nother topic we could talk about.
Yeah.
Catching them up and letting them know, right? It's okay. It's okay. So is there something like, if you were to have a parent and you just wanted them to really know something or to understand about what you do, what is like the most important thing that you think you want parents to take away from this podcast?
Well, the first thing I want them to really take away about their own child is that your child is extremely intelligent. That is the first thing, because, the students that come to you are usually, they're already broken down. Their parents are broken down. So there's nothing wrong with your child. There's nothing wrong. Your child just is differently abled. They're just different. And so the instruction that they usually get at school, it's just not different. They're trying to fit themselves into a world or an institution that only, let's say, for instance, they only deal with squares where your child is round. So they're trying to constantly fit themselves into that. So it's not a mark of, they're not, stupid or not intelligent because they don't fit into the space. Okay. So that your child's intelligent. Your child needs to, whatever gift your child has, cultivate that gift. That gift can be a stress reliever. It can also be their moneymaker when they're an adult. Number 3, please get the help you need. Find somebody who will give free consultation. Please do it. The training, that especially someone like me goes through is an absolute guarantee to help you. If someone tells you, though, that I can get your child on grade level in 3 months, run, because that is not true.
No.
It is not the truth. So just run from that person. But yes, your child can do it. Your child is a reader. That's my motto. Every child is a reader. Everyone is a reader. And
That is so
he or she
great.
can do it.
And I want to add one thing.
Mhm.
Parents, you did not do anything wrong.
Absolutely.
You are parenting the best you can. This is
Absolutely.
just the way your child is.
Yes.
Every child is different.
Yes.
And I hate when parents are like, how did I screw up? My child
Yes.
is, what did I do? Nothing. You didn't. This is the way it
Oh.
is.
Can I please add one more?
Of course.
Do not compare your children. Do not compare your child to another child in your home or anybody else. Don't do it. They're already suffering with that at school. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Definitely. No, that's perfect.
That. It's like, I need to say that.
Because, I know, why can't you be more like your sister? You don't
Mhm.
realize how hard that is,
Yeah.
especially because, okay, like you said, one has one talent, one has a different talent.
Mhm.
So because she's not like her sister, like
Yes.
this is her talent.
Right.
And so like, you're right, cultivate that to help with the self-esteem.
Yes.
This has been so awesome. I am so glad we met and I was able to bring you
Yes.
on my show.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone that you could think?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Gee.
At least she was clothed.
Yes.
Because we've had that happen. Not on my show, thankfully, but it has happened before. Oops. In today's day and age, it happens. But is there anyone else? Like, I'm always looking for people that when I meet somebody that's great, I know you know other great people.
Yes.
Is there anyone else that you think might be a good guest on the show or might want to give a shout out to?
Okay, I'm thinking so definitely. Oh, I don't know. There's a parent that I talk to kind of frequently. Her name is Liz Hembling. I don't know if you've heard her. You may know her, but well, let me not say that because Liz is she's Miss Social Hour, but she is Liz Hembling's a great advocate. She's a parent. She's an excellent advocate. There's also let's see, Winifred Winston. I know her. She's also a great advocate for parents as well. Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. Because even though it's similar to what I do, it's not, I say it all the time. I might not click with you and that's okay.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me.
Exactly.
Let's find somebody that you do click with and that's okay.
I agree.
Yep.
I totally agree.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show.
All right. Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Have a great rest of your day.
You've been listening to Stress-Free IEP with your host, Francis Shefter. Remember, you do not need to do it all alone. You can reach Francis through shefterlaw.com, where prior episodes are also posted. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, and sharing the show with others through YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more.